we're going to do one right now. This is TYT talking about Vivek Ramaswamy and January 6th. Apparently Vivek said, January 6th was just a friendly preview, just to let you know what's coming down the wire. If you don't do what MAGA America wants, this is just a taste of things to come, right? And TYT, we'll just watch, right? Just watch.
From speaking. When a government repeatedly tells people, and I'm talking about the administrative state here, not the elected government, tells people to shut up, sit down, and do as they're told. You were told that you had to take a vaccine when normally, and by the way, I've been in biotech.
You were told that you had to respect the peaceful transfer of power from the candidate that lost the election to the candidate that won the election. What an authoritarian move.
Take 10 years to develop a medicine for the public to believe that it's safe and effective. You can't even choose to take one.
Yo, I don't feel like, wow. Okay, so this is the new, I mean, this is, I think, right? Remember when we looked at that graph of like Ron DeSantis versus Donald Trump versus all the other people? My understanding is Vivek Ramaswamy is kind of climbing, right? He's becoming more prominent. People are talking about him more and more as an alternative to Donald Trump. This is what he's about, apparently. This is my first time really watching him on stream. Your stream suggestions is more likely to get picked if you have timestamps. That is such a great point. That is such a great point, Zara, especially when I don't have time to watch all of everything that gets recommended to me, right? The timestamps are a huge time saver for me. And so, yeah, it does make it more likely.
It hasn't been through that. And yet here, something that went through the process in less than 1 year, you couldn't choose not to take it. On the eve of
January 6th happened because people were sick of those street wankers. Jink, probably.
That election. The most damning story.
3 years ago, people were not jacking it on the streets. And
about one of the two candidates, Biden, his son, and being compromised financially by our enemies from Ukraine, from China in the case of an enemy, to Ukraine in the case of a corrupt actor, is had to be suppressed. You couldn't even send that on your social media accounts to individual people without being silenced.
You couldn't send revenge porn of Hunter Biden? Yeah, that's true. That is true.
So, Cenk, he goes after the administrative state.
Anybody else notice, like I tried to point this out before, and I wanted to show you an example on the Daily Wire, but their sweep, their stinger, you know, that little thing sweeping across the screen, it is so reminiscent of Daily Wire. It is so reminiscent of Matt Walsh, right? It's really, really highly similar to what Daily Wire is doing. Now, obviously, that's just a stylistic choice, but I think in this case, maybe, yeah, Hunter's Hog broke the internet, their minds and the internet, right?
He talks about COVID mandates, COVID vaccine mandates, which really, for the most part, impacted, some small businesses for a short period of time. Not small businesses, larger corporations for a small period of time, not smaller businesses. And some public employees also had to get vaccinated. So he's pointing to those issues as the main grievances that conservative voters are dealing with here, and that if you don't deal with those grievances, if you don't deal with those
it's the one good thing that like if Trump cared, he could claim as a success was Operation Warp Speed, getting that vaccine out as quick as they did.
Problems, then we're going to see another January 6th. That January 6th was just a little preview of what's to come. What are your thoughts on that?
He's doing two things wrong and one thing right. So when he says January 6th happened because of Hunter Biden's laptop, cuckoo, like
you can choose to take one that hasn't been through that. And yet here, something that went through the process in less than 1 year, you couldn't choose not to take it. On the eve of that election, the most damning story about one of the two candidates, Biden, his son, and being compromised financially by our enemies.
Wait, that's not true. Some people didn't get the, what is he talking about? Some people did not even, look, this, I mean, our protocols against the virus were not authoritarian. They were not abnormally strong. They were on the anemic side. They were not vigorous enough, right? And there was no mandate. How would it even have been enforced? It wasn't like You know, there was no, like, there were mass mandates like in certain places, but not in other people's. Do I like the emote that you made? Wait, the emote of Hunter's Hog? Did you make a Hunter's Hog emote? I think we might have problems with that, especially if it's, but I want to see it if it's an animated one. Didn't the vaccines get the same amount of scrutiny as they normally, they just super focused on making it a priority. Exactly. Ukraine isn't an enemy of the US. Neither is cyber. Oh my God, wait. I'm trying to get to the part where he says January 6th was just a preview.
You couldn't choose not to take it. On the eve of that election, the most damning story about one of the two candidates, Biden, his son, and being compromised financially by our enemies from Ukraine, from China in the case of an enemy, to Ukraine in the case of a corrupt actor.
Okay, that's what he said.
It had to be suppressed.
Yeah, corrupt actor, Ukraine, enemy, China.
You couldn't even send that on your social media accounts to individual people without being silenced.
So, Cenk, he goes after the administrative state. He talks about COVID mandate.
She mentions it being like a friendly preview, but where does he say that?
My concern, Charlie, is unless we reconcile ourselves with what the truth of the matter was that led to January 6th, that's really just going to be a friendly preview of what's to come in this country.
Some dark.
So unless we do what MAGA wants, yeah, there we go. Okay, that's the part I needed to see.
Repeatedly tells people, and I'm talking about the administrative state here, not the elected government, tells people to shut up, sit down, and do.
Gave me a Jeff Goldblum static emote. Oh my God, that's awesome.
Do as they're told. You were told that you had to take a vaccine when normally.
The Hunter, the company Hunter is based in. Oh yeah, we're talking about Burisma, right? The Hunter, the company of that Hunter worked. That's Burisma, right? Held assets in Ukraine. Does this guy think right-wing chuds like him? Yes, he wants right-wing chuds to like him.
And by the way, I've been.
But the thing about it is, like, a lot of these dudes are auditioning for Vice, right? In fact, I would go as far as to say, if they don't have meaningful criticism for Donald Trump, they're auditioning for Trump's vice president, right? And that might be what Ramaswamy is doing here.
In biotech, you have to take 10 years to develop a medicine for the public to believe that it's safe and effective. You can't even choose to take one that hasn't been through that. And yet here, something that went through the process in less than 1 year, you couldn't choose not to take it. On the eve of that election, the most damning story about.
If you couldn't choose not to take it, it was because of your workplace, not because of, like, the government making, there was no mandate to take the vaccine per se, right?
One of the two candidates, Biden, his son, and being compromised financially by our enemies from Ukraine, from China in the case of an enemy, to Ukraine in the case of a corrupt actor, it had to be suppressed. You couldn't even send that on your social media accounts to individual people without being silenced.
So, Cenk, he goes after the administrative state. He talks about COVID mandates, COVID vaccine mandates, which really, for the most part, impacted, some small businesses for a short period of time. Not small businesses, larger corporations for a small period of time, not smaller businesses. And some public employees also had to get vaccinated. So he's pointing to those issues as the main grievances that conservative voters.
That's the closest thing you could say to, like, a mandate, that if you're a public employee
are dealing with here, and that if you don't deal with those grievances, if you don't deal with those problems, then we're going to see another January 6th. That January 6th was just a little preview of what's to come. What are your thoughts on that?
He's doing two things wrong and one thing right. So when he says January 6th happened because of Hunter Biden's
one thing right
laptop. Cuckoo. Like, are you serious? Why are you saying such silly things, right? So on the other hand, when he says they have massive grievances.
I mean, look, here's the thing, right? It's this claim that there's something wrong with the election. You know, it wasn't right. It was like votes were manipulated or something like that, right? You know, they tried to claim that Trump really won the election. They tried to claim that Biden couldn't have gotten 81 million votes, right? And that didn't work. They had to back off on every single claim. Every single claim that they made was debunked, right? So now he says, oh, but if we had just been able to tweet out Hunter's hog, right? If we had just been able to show you Hunter's tumescent hog, his turgid hog, right? Then Biden would have lost. So Biden should have lost, and that's what January 6th is just a friendly preview. You know, we're just letting you know. You can't get away with that again. Also, it's not true, right? If there was the power, you know, to enforce a Trump election, then January 6th would have worked. There wasn't, right? No, we came way too close, and you know, it does show the response to that sort of thing to be utterly anemic. But no, they didn't they didn't stop the vote. They didn't, you know, create a constitutional crisis. They didn't, you know, prevent the peaceful transfer of power. So,
and that's why,
and if you can't do it, you know, like, I mean, it's just like,
they couldn't take it anymore, and it exploded.
Them claiming that like we're gonna be nice this time. You know, that was January 6th. That was us being nice, right? Next time, not so much. No, you're not. You're the head of the 3%ers is gone. He's locked away. The you know, that was a huge cornerstone in the whole effort, right? That is no longer there. There's effectively, you know, no leadership to that organization, no structure to that organization. The Proud Boys and Patriot Front cannot agree on who is a Fed or not. I don't like this threat is utterly, you know, oh my God, John Stossel, what is this? Yo, I thought that oh my God, I'm looking at this. Oh no, we can't watch this. We can't watch this. Like, I feel like we should watch it, but we can't watch this. This is John Stossel. Does anybody know who this guy is? He's like a weird right-wing journalist from back in the day, but he got fired at some point, and I guess he's still kicking on YouTube. He's got a video called Vivek Ramaswamy, the full interview on wokeness, free speech. The thumbnail says the anti-woke candidate. If you really want to find the real anti-woke candidate, it's Vivek Ramaswamy. That's who it is. Anyway, we got to finish up with TYT first.
Into this, basically.
Yeah, the mustache guy.
He's not saying it's a riot, but it was definitely a riot, and obviously they broke in. That part is correct. Now, are their grievances justified? Well, that breaks into two different categories. In my estimation, I think there were some people who thought.
Is it funny to anybody else that the TYT is calling it a riot rather than an insurrection?
No, we're the white right-wingers. We always rule. And this isn't, that's not your America, it's my America. And I'm going to take it back. For them, the idea that someone that isn't on their side won is inconceivable. But there's also a giant group of them that have legitimate grievances. Is it like the Republican Trump grievances? No, it's just.
A giant group of what, Jan 6ers? There's a giant group of Jan 6ers who have legitimate grievances? Is that what he's saying?
Giant group of them that have legitimate grievances.
Seriously, no.
The idea that someone that isn't on their side won is inconceivable. The white right-wingers, we always rule. Into two different categories. And it exploded into this, basically, he's not saying it's a riot, but it was definitely a riot, and obviously they broke in. That part is correct. Now, are their grievances justified? Well, that breaks into two different categories.
The rioters, right? He's saying that he's saying some of the rioters have legitimate grievances.
It crushed our wages, it's crushed our jobs, it's crushed our dignity.
Nobody was saying anything about wages or jobs, Cenk. What are you talking about?
And it is
none of the rioters were talking about that, right? They wanted the candidate who lost to retain office despite the fact that he lost. They wanted the vice president to, you know, essentially what they wanted Mike Pence to do. Imagine it's the Grammys or the Oscars, right? and I'm Mike Pence, and they hand me the envelope because I'm the presenter. I'm not the nominee. I'm not the winner. I'm the presenter. And I come up and say, the winner of Best Picture for 2023 is, and it says Elemental. But I want it to be Sound of Freedom. And I say Sound of Freedom, but it literally says Elemental, right? Like it literally doesn't say that. Like, I read a different thing, right? What would happen then? Does Sound of Freedom get the Oscar because I said that they did and I'm the presenter? Do I have the power to say anything I want? Do I have the power to say like Air Bud from 1999 actually wins the 2023 like Oscar for Best Picture? Can I say that Space Jam or like Chud, the movie Chud from the 1980s, Nightmare on Elm Street? Can I say any? Like, do I have the power? No, I've got to read what's on the envelope, and if I deviate from that, then I'm not this presenter, right? And like that, you know, whatever it says on the envelope is who wins. Whatever it says in terms of like the delegate totals is who wins, right? Pence literally does not have the power, and Pence knows that he doesn't have the power. That's why he doesn't try to change the results of the election. But these hogs that TYT is now both sidesing. Is it not 1998? Wait, when was Air Bud? Hulk Hogan slapped John Stossel on the side of the head after John accused. Told Hulk that wrestling was fake. Nice. I mean, not nice. I'm not enjoying the fact that John Stossel got slapped. No, never. Just laughing. Yeah. No, I don't know. I could be wrong.
Rampant corruption in government, where corporations are just flat out allowed to buy almost every politician there is. And that has led.
They're not mad about that. Trump enables that. What are you talking? That's not. None of them are upset about that. That is not why they're upset. Nobody's saying this, Cenk. Why are you doing this? Why do you need them as your audience? Why are you literally embracing January 6th before our very eyes? Damn.
To their wages and their jobs and their healthcare being crushed, and they're super mad, right?
Then why don't they say it?
And so
you know what they say? They talk about Pizzagate, Cenk. They talk about Pizzagate, and they talk about like missing votes and shit like that. You don't hear them say the things that you're saying. You don't hear them voicing those legitimate grievances, right? They are not worried about that. To them, the swamp is not the fact that there are lobbyists involved in politics. The swamp is the fact that the candidates they like do not win election. That is the swamp, right? That candidates that they dislike, people who they've been like just kind of groomed to hate, right, are sometimes elected to office. That's what they mean by the swamp, right?
System, including mainstream media, the Democrats and corporate Republicans, trying to bottle that up. No, you're not angry. The system is great. You're not angry. And that was January 6th was partly them going, no, we're not going to stay bottled up. We are angry, and we're going to go do this. Now the left wing does.
Thank you for the gift sub to Moni.
Do it because we have no sense of entitlement. But the right wing has a sense of entitlement. Like, this is my country. What do you mean, right? And when you add a grievance on top of that entitlement, January 6th happens. Now, the second part he's wrong about is he seems.
Look, you can, Cenk, if you want to, you could say they should be mad about this. You could say even that they feel that there's something wrong and this is really what's wrong, but Trump like distracts them and says this is what's wrong, right? It's wokeness, right? When they should be worried about money and politics. You can say that, but you can't say that these hogs, you can't say that these chuds are talking or expressing an interest or a care in money in politics. That's literally not what they're worried about. They're worried about like the existence of drag queens and trans people. They're worried about the fact that like the business celebrates Pride Month. They're worried about the fact that Dylan Mulvaney drinks Bud Light. That's what they're mad about, Cenk. They're not talking about what you're saying. They have no interest in this.
To be kind of mildly encouraging.
Am I the first one to cover this?
And so Whoa, slow your roll there.
I cannot be the first one to cover this.
It's not a positive thing that January 6th happened. Like, I understand the reasons behind it. Some of them bad, some of them understandable, some of them horrible, right?
Vanguard.
But it's not a good thing. There's a much better way to address those grievances, which is to end the corruption in the first place. But he's not offering that solution. Trump's not offering that solution, and the Democrats aren't offering that solution. The solution is
and they're not asking for that solution. The hogs are literally not asking for that solution. It'd be great if there was, and there was stuff that we could come together on, and you could distract them and be like, hey, you know what you really want is money out of politics. And the hogs would be like, yeah, why was I thinking about kicking people out of the country? Why was I thinking about banning trans people from bathrooms? Why was I thinking about, like, you know, ending trans people's access to medical care when I should have been concentrating on what really matters is the money in politics? Thank you, Jink. No, they don't care, Jink. They don't care. That's not interested. That's not interesting. That's not catnip to them, right? Somebody's got to bleed. Okay, I hate to say it that way, but it's true. For the conservatives to give a F, somebody has to bleed. Somebody that is part of a group that they hate. They want to see tears. They want to see pain. That's what motivates them, Jink. And if you were in the least bit a competent political analyst, you would diagnose that. But you're not. You're a grifter reaching out to hogs after you've, I guess, reached the natural limit of your audience as the home of the progressives. Now you're going to be the home of the intellectual dark web. Congratulations, you fake MF.
Private financing of elections, so there are no more bribes. But they all like the bribes, including him.
And it is kind of interesting how the Republican voters are never listened
they
to.
covered Anna's bad drug take,
by the prominent figures in their own party, right? Because he lists off all these things.
No,
like
I'm sure that the Vanguard would be interested in this story. I'm sure they'll cover
against the administrative state, you know, the Hunter Biden's laptop, all of these little like fringe issues, and it seems like he's making a concerted effort to avoid actually listening to what the voters are saying. So why don't we go to the quotes of a specific January 6th rioter who is facing—
That sounds like you're about to give me an anecdote, Anna.
6 years in prison because of her part in those riots. So I'm gonna skip ahead to Audrey Southard Rumsey. She's one of the Capitol rioters. She's going to be in prison for 6 years because not only was she one of the rioters, she was caught on camera assaulting a Capitol police officer with a flagpole. Now, she gave a 15-minute rant in court. And what I thought was interesting about her rant, and look, let me be clear for people who can't really like—
And look, like, understand, right? These hogs are the very same kind with the Blue Lives Matter flags, right? If they are hitting cops, right, that shows you where their priority was. And that priority is not getting money out of politics. That priority is shoving Donald Trump down the rest of our throats through any means necessary, right? They love Trump more than they love cops. And they are, you know, I mean, you've seen how they are with cops, right? I mean, in some ways, Trump is like the ultimate cop to them, right? The guy that's gonna make the people that they hate hurt the most. That's Trump.
Taking someone
if those Capitol cops are standing in the way of their man Trump, they're gonna run him right over. Yeah, of course.
Disagree with politically seriously, okay? It's gonna be okay. I don't agree with this person, but I think what she's saying here is very interesting, and we should maybe consider her concerns. All right, so here's what she says in court. I have grievances.
Like these, like, what is this, like, rhetorical gymnastics? I was gonna say mental gymnastics. I feel like it's rhetorical gymnastics. I feel like they are bending themselves in a pretzel to appeal to the to the intellectual dark web. Yeah.
Since they don't listen to us at the polling place, they don't listen to us
TYT?
little people in the regular world. So Southard Ramsey criticized gas and grocery.
Listen to us at the polling places. She's saying she thinks the election was stolen. She's believing everything that comes out of Donald Trump's ass.
Prices and said, quote, "I'm terrified about what's happening in our country." Departing court.
Wait, are you sure that this was like, my understanding is that they only cared about gas and grocery prices after Trump left office, right? They only care about this stuff in as much as it can hurt Biden. That's they've been told, right? Biden's responsible. The inflation, it's Biden's fault. Trump protected us. None of this happened under Trump. None of the grocery prices went up. None of the gas prices, right? This is...
She declined requests for comment. Turning to reporters, she said, "You are all effing liars. You should be ashamed of yourself. You're why we're in this mess." I just think it's interesting I
think it's interesting, Anna, that the person that needs to hear that you look, I won't say you're why we're in this mess, but you're part of it and you're not helping, right? You're adding to the confusion on something that is a really clear-cut matter, right? Do we want a criminal enterprise like Donald Trump in charge of the nation, right? And look, would I rather have somebody other than Joe Brandon in charge of the nation? You betcha. I mean, like, right? Like, it should be about us. It should be about the people. It should be about the workers, right? That's who should be in charge of the nation, and not just the government, but the means of production as well, right? But if you ask me, like, which is more harmful, Donald Trump or like literally anyone else, generally it's gonna be, I mean, not anyone else. There's plenty of chuds now, right? But like, do I want a chud in charge or not? Yeah, I kind of don't want that, and I especially don't want a chud who just lost the election to be kept in power, not just by absolute hogs like the Gen 6ers, but by enablers like Ana and Cenk, right? Grifters, literally making money off of harming the rest of us, right?
The economic concerns that you hear from these rioters, from Trump supporters over and over and over again, just gets brushed to the side by Republican figures like Ramaswamy, as if like these statements don't exist, these concerns don't exist. And the only thing they're really concerned about is
Anna,
social media.
You found an anecdote, okay? And you stretched it and you twisted it and you pulled it like taffy to form it into the exact shape you wanted. See? They want money out of politics. They don't give a fuck about money in politics. Get it through your head.
Censorship and whatever, fringe issue they want to put front and center in the, political space.
Yeah, so I'm gonna say something controversial here that some on the left are gonna
get ready. Cenk's about to be controversial.
Flip out over, but hold
you
here.
Want us to flip out about it? Oh my God. Okay, message received, Cenk. Message received.
Get to it. So first of all, in this woman, she's both incredibly right and incredibly wrong. She's right about all the things that Ana just said. Then you read more into it, and she beat one of the cops with
all the things that Ana read into what she said that she didn't actually say. Yeah.
Flagpole. She pushed someone else down, and she believes in full Trump MAGA lunacy. Right?
Yeah, I don't agree with any of that, and she should be serving time.
So you'll stand up for the cops, right? So that's your contention with her. You shouldn't go against the cops. Okay, Ana.
What she did. I want to be clear.
Yeah, and she broke the law and she participated in assault, let alone everything else.
That's the problem with what she did. She broke the law.
Okay, that's all true. Both things are true, okay? Now, I'm gonna go to the MLK quote, so buckle up.
Oh my God. So here's what they do. They recast the insurrection as a riot, and he's going to drag the coffin of Martin Luther King into this mess that he's created. Oh my God. I mean, hasn't Anna done enough damage to like MLK's legacy already? Are we gonna drag him into this again? That is so messed up, and he doesn't agree with you.
A riot is the language of the unheard. This was a riot. So now, does that mean that the riot was justified? No. Does that mean people who broke the law shouldn't go to jail? No, they should go to jail.
And what is hearing a group that's discontented with the fact that they lost an election? What does that mean, Cenk? What is hearing that voice? What does that mean?
I love that they're actually finally going after the conspirators of the entire scheme in the first place.
Yeah, it was not unheard. It was astroturfed.
People like Donald Trump who came up with the fake elector scheme, okay?
And the fake electors themselves.
But it takes, and that's why Vivek is totally wrong about, oh, is Hunter Biden's laptop. People don't riot over a little thing that just happened. So when
they wanted to see his hog, the wine moms and the Gen Sixers, they didn't get to see Hunter's hog. They've never felt right about that. That's why they rioted. They needed to see that, right? And the goddamn big tech deprived them of that awesome hog.
Riots happened after George Floyd was killed. It was the language of the
cops right. You can try telling that to TYT. Zara's pointing out a good point that what we call riots, right? Those situations, those chaotic situations, often in the midst of a protest, many times are not caused by the crowd that's gathered there. It's not the crowd all is like, you want to riot? Should we riot? Are we gonna riot? Let's do a riot. Let's do it. No, like, right? It comes after the cops create that chaos. The cops antagonize the crowd. The cops put people in a state of mind, through these so-called non-lethal but yet still violent means, right? Through the use of essentially chemical weapons and flashbangs and beanbags and what. I mean, I say beanbags, that doesn't sound like much, right? But imagine a beanbag being shot out of a gun, basically, right? So yeah, it hurts, right? They put people in these situations that they should never be put in order to provoke a reaction by which they can justify more violence, right? And that's 9 times out of 10 where a riot comes from.
Heard because it wasn't
police riot, yeah, like the DNC convention, and you're talking about 68.
Just about George.
Fascist QAnon insurrectionists are the unheard, right? Yeah, the uttermost oppressed.
Floyd. It was hundreds of years of police abusing black people in this country, and that's why that frustration mounts until it explodes. Because no one will.
Are you gonna ruin Langston Hughes too? Are you gonna say this was a dream deferred for the Republicans? Is that what? Cenk, please at least leave Langston Hughes alone.
Hear that. So what is the core of the Republican voters' anger that is not being heard? It is not conspiracies about the deep state, and
it's not about pizza and how Hillary Clinton is making pepperoni out of children's faces with Huma Abedin at night. No, I'm sure it's not about some mysterious file on Anthony Weiner's laptop called Frazzle Drip. It's nothing like that. It's nothing. I'm sure it's not some weird, like, oh my God, what do you even call this stuff? The thing where they take like letters in people's names and they turn them into the numbers, and then they add the numbers together in such and such a way, and see Donald Trump equals hero. Donald Trump equals what is that called? I can't remember the name of this. Can anybody? I just imagine for a moment there, gluten-free vegan pizza. That sounds delicious. Oh my God, Republicans are actually rational, right? What is? I can't remember the name of this. The name of this thing where it's just bullshit is one thing you could call it, but that's not the name that I'm thinking of. Numerology, no, it's like something
on and all that stuff. Yeah, there's a whole heap of that within the right wing, no question about it. That's why I'm not in the right wing, and I would never be in the right wing as long as they have those ridiculous conspiracy theories, etc. But the core was, what did Trump win on in 2016? Drain the swamp. The Republican voters hate corruption, and that is a credit to them. But every time they talk about draining the swamp, mainstream media goes, there is no corruption. Every bill they're voting on, they're having a legitimate debate between honorable gentlemen.
Gematria.
The money
That's
that they're
what I'm thinking
receiving
of.
in bribes, I mean campaign contributions.
You think that chuddery would be, yeah, it's called gematria is what I'm talking about, right? Right, these are, a lot of these are QAnoners. Without conspiracy theories, he would join the right wing. Yeah, I guess so. I mean, he was on the right wing, right? And once in future political home of the Young Turk.
Doesn't affect them at all. And then it gets angrier and angrier, and the pressure mounts and mounts until you have a riot like this. That is the language of the unheard. Because
Somebody take MLK's words away from these people, please.
the people in Washington.
Look, I don't believe in free speech anymore. I don't believe in free speech. I think there should be a law against the Young Turks quoting MLK. I'm gonna say it. All right, I'm an authoritarian leftist. Come get me, couples. Come get me. I'm going full tanky here, saying the TYT should not be allowed to use MLK quotes ever again. Never, under no circumstances. Right?
Corporate Democrats, corporate Republicans, and corporate media are all collectively gaslighting you and go, there is no problem. The system is great.
The status quo is fantastic.
The status quo is wonderful. And
Right.
corporate and campaign contributions are not bribes. Well,
you wish that they cared about that. And look, like, I mean, could you drag a certain number of people that are voting for Donald Trump along with like a Bernie Sanders campaign? Maybe. Probably not, though. The thing about it is, no matter, you know, how forthright and how radical a left candidate is, there's always going to be somebody out there that these groups hate more than they care about themselves, more that they care about. Like, I don't really think the issues of money in politics crosses many of these people's minds, right?
it was bound to explode. It exploded in a very
TYT should not be allowed to use microphones.
unproductive way, in a disastrous way. But there's a
They're going to quote him out of context. They really shouldn't be quoting him at all.
fundamental underlying reason, and we're ignoring it at our peril. Thanks for watching the Young Turks. Really.
Okay, well, I mean, that was depressing.